Welcome, everyone in the United States, Canada, and around the world to another episode of It's a Wrap with Rap, the podcast of overcomers and useful information to better our lives and lift our mental spirit. I am your host, Ron Rapaport. I would like to thank all of our great listeners, viewers, supporters, and sponsors for helping to make this podcast such a success. The podcast is being heard on all major platforms and the podcast website it's a wrap with rap.com, where you can find all the episodes, previews of future episodes, the podcast Book Nook, featuring great books written by our guests, and various products and services offered from our sponsors. You may also view all the episodes on the podcast YouTube channel. It's a Wrap with Rap, the podcast uncut. My guest today is Dr. John Horton. Dr. Horton is a graduate of the Duke Medical School, followed by a year of training in medicine, pediatrics, and psychiatry at San Francisco General Hospital. Dr. Horton started a medical clinic in India for Western visitors after postponing a psychiatry residency. In 1974, he began to manage the largest practice in Bethesda, Maryland. For 5 years, he enjoyed a thriving office and hospital practice and taught at George Washington University Medical School. The next 12 years were a sabbatical from medical practice to focus on nonprofit educational work in the US, Europe, and Asia Pacific. For the last 25 years, Dr. Horton has partnered with Dr. Ed Hanslick to create a primary care integrative medical practice in Westlake Village, California. Together, they co-wrote The Inner Game of Stress with the well-known creator of the Inner Game coaching model, Tim Gallwey. Dr. Horton was asked by Dr. William Lammers, a founder of the hospice movement in England, to co-direct an outpatient hospice in the San Fernando Valley. He was a founding board member of the Community House of Hope, a social model hospice home in Thousand Oaks, California. Lecturing on stress resolution and personal wisdom has been a passion for Dr. Horton for decades. Dr. Horton is with us today to talk about stress resolution, palliative care, transgenerational trauma, caring for Alzheimer's patients, aging without getting old, and his views on topics related to death and dying. Welcome, Dr. Horton, to the podcast.
Well, thank you. I don't know who this person is you were describing.
Well, that's you, my friend,
A lot of
we're excited to talk to you.
Thank you.
You and your colleague, Dr. Ed Hanslick, and the infamous Tim Gallwey wrote the book, The Inner Game of Stress, Outsmart Life's Challenges and Fulfill Your Potential, based on the idea to share many years of seminars and learning from your clinical practice. The three of you have accomplished together with the idea of changing the conversation about stress. Now, for those in the audience, please tell us, who is Tim Gallwey and what was the catalyst to prompt you to write the book?
Good question. So I met Tim Galway on the banks of the Ganges River in India in 1971. And he told me about his idea about the inner game of tennis. And a couple of years later, when he was working out the details of how to teach tennis with consciousness rather than instruction.
Okay.
Very powerful notion. And in fact, at that time, there was something called the Harry Reasoner Show. It was a very popular show. And they came out to California to really, take the piss out, if you would say, of this Tim Galway and just reveal that he's a fake. So they put an ad in the paper, tennis, free tennis lessons, come. And so they picked out of the people that came Molly Grogan, who was a self-described overweight klutz, wearing moo-moo. And he's going to teach her to play tennis in 20 minutes on television.
Wow.
He does it. If you go to his website, Inner Game, you see this video of her just with the simplest of concentration exercises. They start off on the ground, hitting the ball back and forth as if it was a hockey puck. Then he puts her on one side of the court, he's on the other side of the court, and he says, okay, we're going to play the famous game of bounce hit. And her instructions are when the ball bounces on your side, say bounce. And when you hit it, say hit. And when it bounces on his side, bounce, hit. And you see the first stroke she misses. After that, she never misses a stroke.
Really?
Yeah. And then they shift the game a little bit. These are awareness games. Because his thing is that the human body, he calls the human body self two. Self one is our thinking self that learning to play tennis would drive ourselves crazy with instructions and doing it right. Don't do that and do this. Whereas the self two is observing Tim, who can play tennis, and just is able to hit the tennis ball back. That's all. And you watch her and she develops good form. And they shift up a little concentration exercise. Tell me where the ball is when it's coming across the net. These are all focusing exercises. They're not instruction. So you're using a whole different part of your being. This is how we learn to walk. This is how we learn to talk. We didn't get instructions.
Right.
It's amazing. If you watch it, you see it's very graceful. So I've known Tim way back. And when we talk about stress in patients, I think it's common knowledge now that chronic stress is a huge cause of illness. It opens up the door to illness.
Right.
And so how are they going to get people out of stress? Tell them to do things, right? Don't be stressed. That helps. Don't be stressed.
Right, right. Yeah.
Okay.
Not the way to do it. Right.
And go for a walk and join a book club and do meditation, get a pet, and all these things. They may or may not be useful, but they're not getting to the core. The core is being able to shift out of the stress system. And let's talk for a minute about bodily systems. Our body is made up of different systems. As you and
Yeah,
I
yeah. I was gonna ask you about that. But before we go into that, I want to ask you a question. What does the book teach us about stress? I know you wrote that 75 to 90% of all visits to primary care doctors is accountable to stress.
yeah. So I think we all know that in some way or another.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So now the medical environment tends to ignore that and try and give us some relief of the symptoms. That's not bad. But we always said, well, let's get to the core of the problem. And so it's an overactive stress system. Now, let me just describe
Okay.
this a little bit.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's the question I was going to ask you. You describe the human body as having a stress system. How does it get activated? And describe to us how we can be taught to move from the primitive uh, fight or flight and freeze system to the wisdom system that you talk about in the book.
That's the core question.
Okay.
So, the stress system is what allowed us to survive on the plains of Africa for a couple of 100,000 years, more or less. And so it's triggered when we're afraid.
Right.
And obviously there, the fears were physical, okay? Now most of our fears are not physical. So the system goes into action. We know about adrenaline, we know about cortisol, and so we're ready to fight or flee or freeze, hide, basically that's hiding.
Okay.
And so nowadays, the things that cause us frustration or fear or pain, those are the three things that will evoke the stress system, are not having to do with our physical survival. They're more complex. But if we approach them with fighting or running away, all of drug abuse is fleeing. We fight too much with ourselves and others, and we freeze too much. I don't want to get out of bed today. I can't do it. There's another one too. I'm calling it flocking. That's gathering together like a herd, like a flock of geese, and sticking with the group so that, safety in numbers.
Right.
So here you are, you're driving a car in California, people drive aggressively. Where are you from?
Florida.
Florida. Not so aggressive. More older people, right?
Not as aggressive as California. I've been out there.
Yeah. So there's something called road rage.
Yeah.
So someone cuts you off or nudges you, and instead of saying, okay, this person may be in a hurry because they have some kind of a serious problem, their wife is sick, their husband is sick, And it's like, it's okay. Hey, it's not hurting me. Instead, it's like, what are you doing? And now you're fighting, or you get upset and drive away really fast, fleeing. So these are not going to be adaptive to the complexities of our human lives. So we need to experience that we have another system. And I like to call it the wisdom system. 3 parts. One is the wisdom of the body.
Okay.
People I get bothered all the time when people ask me, Doc, what should I eat? How should I exercise? What should I do? And I think, hey, you need to understand that for yourself. Your body is unique, and it can tell you, if you listen, what's good for you and what's not good for you. The body has tremendous wisdom. We actually do know when to go to sleep. We do know when to eat. We do know when to move, but we don't pay attention so much. We want someone to tell us.
Yeah.
Not okay.
Yeah.
So another part of the wisdom system is the human brain. We have all these areas of intelligence, so many things we can do. That's a wonderful thing about humanity, is that we have great intelligence in many areas. And then, and this is the one I want to stress, is the wisdom of, let's call it the human heart or the human spirit or the human soul. It doesn't matter what you call it, but there's a part of us that is capable at any moment of feeling peace, of feeling a simple joy. I have a 13-month-old grandchild. Now, Darcy Jane is her name. If she's not wet or hungry or sleepy, she's peaceful, she's joyful, she's curious, she's friendly. That's our real nature. Okay? But it gets covered over by all these stress reactions. So the shifting from the stress to the wisdom system is when we can stop and look at things objectively and say, what do I want to experience here? That makes
Yes.
sense?
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. So in other words,
Good.
if somebody is, say, for example, tailgating you,
Yeah.
you would try to just move out of the way, move over. He's
Hey, or
having a moment, and I don't want to be part of it.
exactly. Exactly.
Now, let me ask you a question. What skills do doctors need to help patients with stress issues and to prevent chronic stress aside from prescribing anti-anxiety medication, for instance? What skills do they need
This is a
that
really good question.
they obviously don't, a lot of them don't have?
Right. I was talking to a medical student like an hour ago
Yeah.
about his trip through the emergency room rotations and the things that he's experiencing. And we got to this point of saying, because he's watching the doctors around him, he's in training. And some of them he really likes and he wants to emulate them. And they're the ones that are calm and kind and have empathy. So if you're freaking out and someone listens to you and understands what you're saying, that helps a lot right there. And then if they're kind and they encourage you to look for options, because there's always options, like you were describing. Someone's tailgating you. Yeah, you can get pissed off, and I've done that, and drive too fast to get away from them, or just drive too slow to piss them off.
Right.
Or, like you said, you can just take the opportunity and move away. So moving around things, not taking them head on, not running away from things, but seeing what they are and moving around them. So you are keeping your sense of calm, your sense of well-being, which is natural. That's where we want to be. It's
And
attractive.
this is all originating from the brain, right?
Yes.
Okay. What's your opinion? I mean, do you prescribe anti-anxiety medication for people?
Well, there are levels of stress. In the book we have a stress thermometer. Where you're boiling, and there, yeah, you may need some kind of medication or some kind of intervention.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. There was a woman that came to see me. She was very stressed out. It's a young Chinese woman working as an accountant, And she'd seen a doctor, and the doctor was sending her to an oncologist, check her out for cancer, to a heart specialist, check out her heart. She wanted a second opinion. So I looked at the results of her studies, and I didn't see anything that was really of much worry.
Yeah.
And I said, what do you think is going on? Why do you think you're having such a hard time? She said, oh, I hate my job. It's a horrible job, and I have to work too hard there. I said, oh, so what if all this problems you're having are just the frustration, pain of working hard and not enjoying it? What will you do? She said, oh, I've already booked a week at a meditation.
The It's a Wrap with Rap podcast, guest and acclaimed Australian historical fiction thriller author Paul Rushworth Brown has just had his new book, Outback Odyssey, released. Paul is a true storyteller with a unique journey and a life filled with adventure and diverse experiences. From a foster home in England to a path leading him to playing soccer professionally in Canada in 1972, to reuniting with his father in 1982 in Australia, Paul honed his skills as an educator in 2002, but found his true passion and calling as a writer in 2015. Paul's historical fiction novels are a testament to his authenticity and grit, woven with unexpected twists and turns that will leave the reader breathless. With vivid narratives, he paints a realistic portrait of life in past decades, setting the stage for suspenseful, mysterious, and thrilling tales tinged with romance. Paul's latest novel, Outback Odyssey, will take you on an epic journey through 19th century Australia, blending historical adventure with a powerful mix of survival, identity, and the collision of cultures. This immersive tale follows the lives of those drawn to the vast untamed land, some in search of opportunity, others fighting to protect what is rightfully theirs. At its heart, the book is about the story of Jimmy, a young Englishman seeking a new life in the Australian wilderness in the 1950s, which mirrors thousands of British emigrants who sought new opportunities in Australia in the wake of World War II, whereby the Australian government encouraged mass migration to bolster the workforce and expand rural settlements under the Populate or Perish initiative. Jimmy's story reflects the hopes, struggles, and cultural clashes experienced by these migrants as they navigated the complexities of their journey and new home. Through vivid storytelling, Outback Odyssey brings to life the breathtaking beauty and unforgiving harshness of the outback while exploring the struggles of those who call it home. It is a tale of friendship, betrayal, resilience, and love, woven with the profound questions of who belongs, what must be fought for, and what is truly worth saving. The book, Outback Odyssey, is available in bookstores and online.
Retreat place. I'm going to go there. I'm going to relax. And I said, okay, do that and then come back and let's see how you feel. Easy, because she had understanding. She didn't need meds. Someone else might. So I'm not against giving meds, but I want to get to the core of the problem. And if it's, unhappiness in a job, unhappiness in a relationship, if it's, uh, dealing with family issues from long ago,
Yeah.
then we look at those things.
Yeah, and probably, well, that's part of integrative medicine where you actually take time with the patient to figure this out, what the root cause is, correct?
Correct.
So we're not talking about the usual 15-minute doctor visit.
No, no. This is the problem with, let's call it advanced capitalism,
Yeah,
hitting medicine, where everything is time is money, money is time.
yeah.
Where between a doctor and a patient, it should not be a monetizable relationship. It should be a relationship in which there's time for understanding, for empathy, for, just looking at things together, looking for solutions to the stressed out nervous system.
Dr. Horton, can you explain the term transgenerational trauma, its symptoms, and how it can be treated?
Yeah, this is rather cutting edge at this point. There's a lot of people that are talking about trauma and post-traumatic stress being transgenerational. So one area, two areas are obvious, I think, to most of us, is the transgenerational trauma of the Holocaust in the Jewish tradition. And there's a woman in New York, whose name will come to me, who talks about how a child comes home from school and, they're upset. And the mom, who was in the concentration camp, or whose mother was in the concentration camp, says, "What's wrong?" "Oh, my friend Susie was mean to me. She doesn't want to play with me." And what do you think happens to the parent who has heard all about Holocaust or who's been in Holocaust? What is wrong with you? Your relatives died in concentration camps. Why are you upset about Susie? So the mother ends up being mean to the child, not understanding the child. Now the child is upset,
Yeah.
but has nowhere to go with that upsetness. Can't understand the mother's trauma. It's too young. Later on, can. So that's a very common scenario.
Yeah.
Parents that get traumatized are not necessarily kind. It's not that they don't want to be kind. It's that in many situations they're not capable because they're easily triggered. So they get angry, they get frustrated, they're in pain. The other one that's obvious, and I'll give you two examples. California, American Black people who have the transgenerational trauma of slavery. So
Yeah.
there was a champion Olympic athlete, I think he was a 400-meter hurdler, who was driving a nice car, California, maybe a Mercedes. He had some money, and pulled over. Black man driving an expensive car, out on the ground, boots on the head, guns drawn. And at that point, he merged. He described this, that he just merged with all the Black men that had been lynched and beaten and killed over the. It just happened to him, within him. That was all there. And that cost the citizens of California some serious money because he couldn't run again in the Olympics. Same thing happened to a orthopedic surgeon who came from Haiti to give a talk at UCLA, and he's driving a rental car of all things, and the police think it's stolen. So now there's a helicopters on the freeway, off to the side of the road, out of the car, on the ground. He keeps telling them, "Look at my briefcase. I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I come here to give a lecture." They don't listen to him. Finally, some hours later, they let him go from the station, and he can't operate for a year or so. His hands shake when he goes to the operating theater. So those are transgenerational trauma.
Okay, so there are things that happened in the past, but not necessarily happened to that individual, but it could have been to like their parents or grandparents, that type of thing.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's transmitted, whether it's mirror neurons or whether it's epigenetics. It doesn't matter in a way because it's there. And it's important to be able to see that as a cause of stress.
How do you treat something like that?
It's not easy. I mean, right now, while there's, good psychotherapy is always useful. Someone who can listen, be empathic, uh, be in a place of understanding, help the person to let go and discover their own wisdom, because we have the wisdom to heal. That's another aspect of what I call the wisdom system. It's really also the healing system. And then now, what's going on out here in other places is the psychedelic platform, because the conventional meds have not been that impressive, medicines for depression or anxiety, because those are secondary symptoms. It's the traumatized nervous system. And right now, when we look at ketamine, psilocybin, MDMA, these are all things that I've had experience with traumatized patients, and they're helpful. They help the brain to shift gears, move out of the stress system into more of the what Tim would call the self two, the natural healing consciousness of a human being.
Are those therapies legal in California now?
Ketamine is, yeah.
Okay.
Psilocybin is mushrooms. You can grow them in your backyard. So
Yeah.
it's kind marijuana years ago, where no one's going to bother you if you're using some mushrooms to change your consciousness. And MDMA, it's a party drug. They call it ecstasy.
Yeah.
But what's really good, it's not just these drugs. It's what's called psychedelic assisted psychotherapy. So in the psychotherapeutic situation where you're listening and understanding, these particular, well, they're all plant-based, more or less. They help to open up different areas of the brain and they make them more accessible. So the psychotherapy goes much deeper and more quickly.
Okay, well, it's good to know if people are listening to this suffering from transgenerational trauma that there are options out there to treat it.
Definitely.
Yeah. Now, turning to another topic, because we're covering a lot of topics
Yeah.
tonight, you were asked by Dr. William Lammers, a founder of the hospice movement, to co-direct an outpatient hospice in Southern California. Tell us how that scenario came about and a little information on Dr. Lammers.
Well, Bill Lammers was an Englishman. He's passed away. And he was lucky enough to work with Dame Cicely Sanders, who's the person that started modern hospice in England. And so then he came to America, and I don't know. He heard about me and thought that I might be interested, and he offered me this opportunity to co-direct this outpatient hospice, which for me was, I mean, it's the last thing in the world that I thought I would ever do, because I myself had a profound aversion to death, my death and the death of patients. So it was an opportunity to have a lot of experience with patients who were not so afraid. And from that, I was able to learn some principles. The last book is called The Good to Go, uh, Understanding, 5 understandings to navigate a peaceful, elegant departure. And these are understandings that came to me from the patients I saw over the years, especially in the hospice setting, so that we don't have to, approaching, most of us are not afraid of death itself. We're afraid of dying. What's going to happen? How am I going to deal with that? So the book has these 5 principles, understandings, and lots of good stories.
With your expertise in the hospital arena, what are your views on death and how do your views help your patients?
That's a good question. Um, my view is that there's obviously the body dies and then it's going to deteriorate.
Yeah.
The energy that has given us life, whatever you want to call it, you could call it the vital energy of life, Bergson's idea, or you could call it the divine spirit, or you could call it doesn't matter what you call it. There's something that keeps us alive. When
Right.
the child is born, the first thing everyone looks for is it breathing.
Yeah.
And the last thing that goes is the breath. And in the breath itself, and you know this, we've all experienced this in our best moments, quiet time on vacation, waking up after a good sleep, having a lovely experience with some people, you become really quiet and you feel that within your breath there's a great peace, there's a great joy. I don't think that dies. I don't know what happens, but I know that people can connect with that and enjoy that while they're alive and even in the very last moments.
So that's your view, and you relay that to the patients, and that gives them some good
Yeah.
thoughts.
Yeah, well, good thoughts, well, good experience, because it's experiential what we're talking about. It's not a concept or a belief, it's experience. I mean, if I tell you, I mean, have you ever eaten a mangosteen? It's a type of fruit.
Yeah.
Have you ever had one?
Yeah.
Ah, so you know what it tastes like.
Yeah.
If you didn't have it, you wouldn't know what it would taste like.
Right.
So talking about the peace that continues, the consciousness that continues to, in a sense, be us. It's experiential. And that's where the psychedelics have proved helpful too, with people that are really freaked out about dying, very, upset, angry, depressed, too much pain. The psychedelics help them to let go of that and to experience the peace.
What do you say about current attitudes towards death and dying? Uh, I guess you could include to all patients and caregivers out there, Rare Patient Voice, a supporter of the It's a Wrap with Rap podcast, is paying for your input. Patients 16 years and older and caregivers, family, and friends of any disability, disorder, syndrome, illness, or condition have the opportunity to express their opinions through surveys and interviews to improve medical products and services. Who knows your journey better than you? Rare Patient Voice puts you in touch with researchers who are developing products and services that can help you and others with your condition. These researchers need input of patients to develop products and services that have a significant impact on patients' lives. Over the past 9 years, Rare Patient Voice has paid patients over $10 million. When you join Rare Patient Voice, you may be invited to participate in interviews, surveys, or online communities where you will share your insights. Rare Patient Voice has hundreds of studies running at any time, so there are many opportunities to participate. You will earn $120 per hour or $2 a minute, depending on the length of the survey, for participating in these studies. By making your voice heard, you are a catalyst for change. Rest assured, your input will be used to help other patients like you. There is no cost at all for you to participate. You can get more information and sign up by clicking the link in the sponsor's notes of this podcast or the link provided in this announcement. Assisted suicide and that.
That's an interesting area. I mean, that's just new in terms of talking about it. It's always existed. Look, when I was a younger doctor and we had patients that were in, just horrible pain with horrible cancers, and you had them in the hospital, and yeah, you just started giving them a little extra morphine so that they could be peaceful. And you knew that they would die, a little more quickly, and no one talked about it.
Right.
So now it's a choice that people want to make. And I feel it's loaded because I have a feeling that if people could understand more about life, they wouldn't be so afraid of death. It talks about wisdom. There's a sage, Confucius, who's a serious understander of life. And he is reported to have said, the more you understand your life, the more you'll understand your death. And it won't be a problem. So I'm always looking for understanding and wisdom to help in the medical environment, and not just, do the easy thing, which is like, okay, let's load you up with some pills and you can die. I'm sure there are times when that's really, a good idea,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure that it's the way to deal with dying.
So you're saying understand more about life.
Exactly.
What what exactly does that mean, for people out there hearing that? What do they need to understand?
What they need to understand is that life itself, our existence itself, has a divine source, a profound source. This is not religion, but this is experiential. This is like my grandchild, Darcy Jane. I mean, she's so happy. She's so peaceful. Where does that come from? That's just life itself. Going back to transgenerational trauma, there was a very brilliant doctor that wrote about his experiences at Auschwitz. Maybe you've heard of him, Frankel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he noticed there were three different experiences of the people in Auschwitz. Most were just crushed by the sheer inhumanity. I mean, they were zombie-esque. Others did favors and got favors. And a third didn't do either of those. And they seemed to be somewhat content, and
Uh-huh.
they were kind. And so he said, existence itself is good. He studied existential psychiatry. So understanding and experiencing the nature of existence is a profound opportunity for human beings.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Good.
I guess that answers the next question. Many people fear death. How can they overcome this and accept it?
They got to get in touch with the part of them that doesn't die, that energy of life. And they got to have an attitude of like, okay, look, I mean, there's a story in the book, Good to Go, of a woman that came to see me. She'd been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. She was young, in her 30s or so, and she freaked out when she got the diagnosis. Later on, she understood that, the MS that she had wasn't what was going to kill her, and there were going to be good treatments for it, coming along. But she woke up every night in extreme anxiety, and she tried meds, and they didn't work well. So she came to our practice, and she wanted to try something besides medications, and she'd already tried everything I knew. So it's like, what to do? So I taught her this little exercise. It's part of the inner game uh, toolbox called the attitude exercise.
Okay.
I'll go through it with you. Uh, an attitude is something that drives thought and feeling, thought and emotion.
Yes.
So, an airplane only has three attitudes. So if you're in an airplane and you're taking off, everything is okay, and all of a sudden it's going down. Your whole experience changes. So attitude is something very basic. Sometimes it's hard to know what your attitude is. So in the attitude exercise, you try on with this woman, I said, let's try on some dresses in her imagination. And these dresses will represent an attitude about death. And let's see what dress feels good. Okay. So
Okay.
the first dress was a white dress. And this is, you've been good, and when you die, you're going to heaven. She goes, no, I don't like that. I don't believe it. Okay. Second dress, she's in California, so it's a green dress, and this is karma. You've done good, so when you die, you're going to have a good rebirth. And she said, no, I don't like that dress either. So then I said, well, this is a black dress. When this dress is when you die, you're just annihilated. She completely freaked out in
Wow.
her. He said, oh my God, that's what my father, who's a physicist, told us. You're just annihilated. And anyone that believes otherwise is a fool. So I said, wow. So that's why you're so upset about death. That's a very strong attitude. Let's try another dress. So I don't remember what color it was. Maybe it was, orange. And this dress is, look, since you've been alive, there's something very kind and gentle that's been with you, keeps you alive, gives you breath. So let's say when you die, that kind, gentle energy shows up and you go somewhere else. Big smile. And it's like, okay. So that was it. Now, when she woke up, she had an attitude to put on that could, that she preferred to the attitude which she'd had, which was rather unconscious, that you're just going to be destroying.
Yeah. Totally different attitude.
Exactly.
Tell us over the years with your hospice experience, the best way to say goodbye to someone you love.
That's a good question. I think it's just spending time with them and not trying to do anything. You don't have to do anything, to you don't have to do anything to help them die. That's like, what do you do to help an infant to be born? The mother has a lot to do, sure. But others, they just want to see it happen and want to appreciate it. So knowing, I think.
For all those taking health supplements and those concerned with maintaining excellent health, the It's a Wrap with Rap podcast is honored to have Life Priority Health and Nutrition as a supporter of the podcast. Life Priority has been providing high-quality supplements backed by science since 1994. What makes Life Priority different from other supplement companies? The scientists behind Life Priority, Dirk Pearson and Sandy Shaw, life extension scientists and designer food formulators, are independent experts in anti-aging research and brain biochemistry, and have won many awards, including the Award for Excellence in Health and Education from the Association for Holistic Health for individuals who have made special contributions to biomedical aging research. They wrote the runaway #1 national bestseller, Life Extension, A Practical Scientific Approach in 1982, which was a benchmark in the history of nutritional science and created a whole new biomedical paradigm. The book was deemed by the New York Times as the fountain of youth. Over 30 years ago, World Series champion Greg Pryor and his wife Michelle teamed up with Dirk Pearson to start Life Priority. Greg and Michelle were impressed with the integrity of the product. Dirk and Sandy actually started formulating their supplements only for their own personal use initially, so they take their products every day. Life Priority has over 50 years of collective experience in the health and nutrition industry in specific areas such as manufacturing at FDA, USDA facilities, ingredient analysis, scientific development and consulting, product knowledge and use, legal labeling, and relationships with nutritional product manufacturers. Greg and Michelle are always available to guide their customers in making their choices of formulations to take. You can call them at 800-787-5438, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. U.S. Central Time, and all your questions and concerns will be answered. Or you can set up a free consultation time on the website. Please check out the website, lifepriority.com, for detailed information on ordering products and product information. Please use the code RAP for a 10% discount on your first order. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Life Priority Nutrition does not provide medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Life Priority, established in 1994, offers supplements that are scientifically formulated, results-oriented, and generally recognized as safe and are manufactured at USDA and FDA inspected facilities.
This is what's important, is knowing that this person can come to a place of peace, peaceful acceptance, a gentle place with themselves, and to be able to let go and to resolve whatever things bother them, and to keep it really simple, and to accept that yes, they're going to go. We all go. This is as natural as coming, as natural as going. And those are actually the principal understandings in the book. And people who read the book, they're very happy with it. I'm surprised. I didn't think that a book about how to, in a sense, how to prepare to die would be so beneficial. But the stories ring true, because they were all things that happened to me, and they helped transform my experience.
This book, Good to Go, who wrote that book?
That was me.
That was you.
Yeah, and my writing associate, so Sheila Woods. You don't know about that book?
No, I didn't see that in your bio.
Ah,
So you wrote the book. Okay, great.
it's just come out a year ago or so.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody in the audience, we're going to expound on that. Uh, Dr. Horton, what do you find are the top regrets of the dying? I'm sure you must have come across that.
There's a really good uh, book by an Australian who goes through this, who did a whole study of the subject and came up with the main things is, I wish that I had done all those things that I was afraid to do. That's one. I
Okay.
really wanted to live in France, but I was afraid that, I wouldn't succeed there. So, going with fear rather than inspiration. That's one big one. Um, Being unkind to others and to oneself, wishing that I had loved more. and judged less.
Yeah, that's one I can definitely believe. Love more,
Judged
yeah,
less.
judge less. Yeah.
More kindness and tempering ambition with enjoyment. I mean, we can just be so ambitious all the time, always trying to achieve and accomplish, and forget to enjoy our existence. And
Yeah, I
then
can definitely see that too. Sure.
time runs out.
How does one overcome regret, and why is that important?
It's a good question. I mean, there are many ways. Uh, Obviously, it depends a lot what regret is, and does it involve? If it involves other people that you regret that you were, you know, not so loving to your son or your wife, or your wife wasn't so loving to her husband, then you can talk to that person and you can tell them, there's a book, a very good book. I forget the name of the author now. He's a very, very wonderful doctor. He says, he talks a lot about this, and he says, to be able to say, I'm sorry, and really feel that and really mean it, and I want to just give more to you now. I want things to evolve. It's never too late to evolve a relationship. And some
No.
of the dramatic stories of people, because a lot of books out there about what happens at the end. There's a rich literature. And some of them, and there's a couple of stories of mine that have to do with people that they're just, it's like everyone's wondering, why isn't this person dying? It seems like they should be going, but they're waiting for someone to come to say goodbye to, or to say, I'm sorry to.
I've heard that. And then when the person does eventually show up, they pass away.
Exactly. So, yeah, there's something in us that just wants to resolve resolve what's caused us suffering.
Yeah.
And some of it is just internal, and one of the hardest things for us to do is to be kind to ourselves, to forgive ourselves, and let go of the judgment and the criticisms that we have and accept the peace. I have a brilliant teacher. His name is Prem Rawat. And he says something that always blows me away. He says, try and be really still. Try and be very still because the peace is looking for you.
Yeah.
So, again, what else have you got to do but to let go and let the peace find you? And then when you're at peace, that's the only thing I ask. I mean, recently a person came up to me after an event that I was at, pulled me aside. I knew him. I'd had a counseling relationship with him years ago. And he says, John, my son, who was very handicapped, he just died all of a sudden. I said, oh, wow, this is a shock, huh? I said, yeah. I said, were you in touch with him? Yeah, we talked every day. He was a very kind person. And I said, was he peaceful? He goes, yeah. I said, that's what counts. If someone goes in peace, that's good.
That's what we all should strive for.
Yeah.
What is one story you would like to share on palliative care? And everybody, I would assume, knows what palliative care is. So,
Well, let's make that clear because, for years, everyone, felt like if you have a bad disease, you want to do everything, right up to the last moment, take that last chemotherapy, try that different medicine, have a surgery. And there were people that said, I just don't want to do that. Is it okay for me, not to keep trying to cure this disease when it seems rather futile? In fact, a lot of medicine at the last 6 months of life is called futile medicine because it doesn't make a difference. But because, doctors want to treat, people want to treat, there are monetary issues, you know. So palliative care was when we decided, the medical profession decided, with some wonderful leadership, it's like, hey, would you just like to, chill out now, keep you comfortable, keep you out of pain. And guess what? Those people that chose to do that, rather than the ones who were doing everything, live longer.
Really?
Yeah, statistically, we found that.
Huh. Yeah,
So
you wouldn't think that.
no, no. So being able to choose to be comfortable and relax and not have to do everything
Yeah,
is really a good way to go.
sure, because
But if you do everything, that's okay too. It should be an
well,
individual choice.
if you're trying to do everything, I could imagine that'd be stressful.
It can be, but for some people, that's how they want to do it. And to me, it's like, great, go for it. And
Yeah.
maybe they do find something that helps a lot.
What do you
So
think what do you think is the number one piece of advice you would give to someone caregiving for like an aging parent?
that's rough. Uh, don't forget to be kind to yourself. Or you're being kind to your aging parent and caring for them. Make sure you're being kind to yourself, because I've seen people get sick in that situation because they get exhausted because they feel, how can I go away for a weekend? How can I? So respite care is always a good thing. I mean, some people understand that better than others, but you need to get away, and other people can take care. You're not the only one that can take care of an aging parent.
I would assume that answer would pertain to uh, people with cognitive decline, such as dementia and Alzheimer's as well.
Entirely, entirely. There's one of the amazing stories in the book is I had a friend who was a psychologist in my building, and she came to me one day and she said, John, there's a patient. He's a celebrity patient. He's at home close by. You can drive to his house in 5 minutes. And he's got cognitive decline, and he's had a rough time in his life. And his family wants someone that will come by and see him more frequently than is happening now. Would you be willing to do that? And I said, well, who is it? She said, I'm not going to tell you until you tell me if you're going to do it. So it turns out it was the famous actor Robert Young,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
was everyone's favorite father and doctor. And I went to see him the first time. He's sitting in he's a modest house, lovely house. He's got two really good caretakers that are a couple that sometimes stay there, sometimes don't. And the woman introduces me he's sitting on the side of his bed in his PJs, looking very elegant, handsome man, and very friendly. So, I'm introduced, and he looks at me, he goes, Doctor, tell me. And he tells me about a scene that they were shooting for Marcus Welby.
Okay.
And he tells me about it. It's brief, but he disagreed with the director. He thought that Welby should act this way. The director thought that Welby should act a different way. And he asked me, what do you think? How do you think Welby should have acted? And I genuinely agreed with him. He smiled. He goes, oh, good. That's the last time we talked. His cognitive decline was progressing, but he was comfortable. And we kept on firing people, caretakers, that wanted him to do things that he didn't want to do. Like, go to the shower. They had a nice shower. It was a nice house. He didn't like it. They'd fight. I go, stop. Don't fight with him. Would you fight with an infant to put an infant in the shower if it started screaming? You can wash him in bed. He's not a big man. And people wanted to get him up and put him in a chair and stick a book in his fingers and take a selfie. It's like, no. So we just let him rest. And he rested and he rested. He became so peaceful. It was amazing. He'd been very troubled. He had alcohol problems. He was well known for these things. He made a suicide attempt. That was well known. He came to such a peaceful place. It was remarkable.
Yeah. Uh, Going to that peaceful place is definitely the way to go. Uh, Here's a question you probably often get. How do you age without getting old?
Realize that your heart is always young.
Okay.
The heart doesn't age. That energy of life, it doesn't age. I mean, I find now I'm 82, and I'm most fascinated by young children. I just when I see a young one, not when they become complicated, but infants and up to I guess 3 or 4 or 5 even. I'm so attracted to them because I want to experience what they're experiencing. They're just happy for no reason. Because so throughout my whole life, I've been happy for reasons. I've had this success and that achievement, and I just want to feel happy for no reason, like they do. And look, I watched, the newspaper reports of the old people that, and they always ask, so what was her secret for, being so old? There's only two things that are consistent. One is that they had the joy of life,
Hmm.
and the other is that they weren't terribly overweight because it takes a lot to maintain a big body. It's like, your money is running out. It's best to downsize your house.
So they weren't overweight.
No, no, because carrying around too much weight is just, it's going to be exhausting as you get older. I'm talking to myself. I could definitely do balance.
I have a good question for you. I'm sure you've gotten this. Dealing with dying patients as you have with, your hospice experience, what can you tell us about near-death experiences? Have you gotten feedback from patients on that? I'm sure you have.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, the person that changed my life in terms of not being so afraid of death as I was, as a medical student and intern. I was traumatized. I mean, I really was. So there was this man, when you're a young doctor, I was a young doctor in Bethesda, you pick up patients that come to the emergency room that don't have a doctor. They assign them to you. So I was assigned Mr. V, we'll call him. And he'd had a heart attack, and he wasn't that old. He was in his like 50s. And we had a really good cardiologist, Dr. Harris Kenner. So we're taking care of Mr. V, I'll call him. And he did very well. He recovered quickly from the heart attack. He was in the coronary care unit for only a few days. Now he's in the regular floor, and he can't sit still. When people come to visit him, he gets up to move chairs around, and Kenner says, "Hey, we have to sedate him. We need to give him Valium so he's not moving around. He's going to have another heart attack." I was young and arrogant. I said, "No, I'll talk to him. I can convince him." Harris Kenner was right. He had another heart attack right there, you know, one floor away from the coronary care unit. Now he's back in the coronary care unit, and he beat the record. No one had ever had as many shockers, when the heart stops and you shock the person back.
Yeah, yeah.
Because those days we didn't have the fancy surgeries we have now. We didn't have shunts. We didn't have, I mean, stents. I'm sorry, we didn't have
They
stents.
didn't have it back then. Yeah.
No, so all you had was rest. And here's someone that couldn't rest. So he was in and out of dying. And he told me when he was conscious, he said, "Doc, if I'm really damaged, let me go. I'm not afraid of death." I was struck. I mean, it was such a strong statement. And he recovered from all that. It was amazing. And he had these beautiful near death experiences where he was in such beautiful peace and light. So he had no fear. And so that was very transforming for me.
So he said he saw light.
Yeah, yeah. It was all, the usual story. I mean, it's very similar what people say. It's
Yeah.
it's it's been studied. Dr. Moody, who I ran into at a conference not so long ago, wrote him up. And that was the first description of near-death experiences, and that's been replicated. Now, what that is, whether that's the heaven or some place, I think not, truthfully, but I think that people, they feel the peacefulness of existence, and there may be some hallucinations or imaginations, but it's after that most people feel very good about being alive. and they want to make the best of it.
Yeah. That's very, very interesting because I've heard stories like that too, where, oh, I was so peaceful.
Yeah,
Yeah, not afraid of it anymore.
yeah. So they can be very helpful to somebody.
Yeah. Dr. Horton, how can people contact you if they want to get a hold of you?
Oh, I do have a website. It's drjohnhorton.com.
Okay, that's easy enough. So all the information about contacting you would be on that website?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I'm willing to, talk to people. They can just, send me an email
Okay.
what they would like, and we can connect. I
Well,
like people.
I believe we ran the gamut of topics, and I want to thank you for being on the podcast and sharing your expertise with our audience. It was a pleasure to meet you and garner all this great insight and information you had to offer. I wish you all the best going forward. And once again, just thank you for being on the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for your excellent questions.
Well, you're more than welcome. Comments
Good.
and suggestions for our audience. If you have any comments and suggestions for me, you can email me at it's a wrap with rap at gmail.com. We are on Facebook. We have a group. It's a wrap with rap. It's a private group. If you want to get in, just go on Facebook and go to It's a Wrap with Rap. Instagram, It's a Wrap with Rap podcast. We're on X, as it was formerly known as Twitter, at Rapper, WRAPPER 130. Our website is it's a wrap with rap.com. All the episodes are on that. And we're on YouTube. It's a Wrap with Rap, the podcast uncut. All the episodes are on YouTube. I want to thank everyone for listening. Please stay safe out there. And for now, it's a wrap.